What's up? You know what time it is. It's 5 p.m. on Monday. Time for Word Out West. And we are so happy to have you back. Thank you for joining us. What is this, John? Like our 5th episode?
Something like that, yeah.
Oh my God, we are turning like real Hollywood. That's a big deal. I can't wait till we celebrate our 10th episode. It's been really great to have you all, and we are also excited about our guest today, Mr. Jesse Tejedd, who is the VP of Haas, and he'll tell you what that means and what he does. So, Jesse, thanks for joining the show today.
Thanks for having me.
We really appreciate that.
Sure.
Can you tell us a little bit about Haas, obviously what Haas is, and what's your role there at Haas?
So we're an organization that provides behavioral health services to the Chicagoland area, and we're also as far west as the western suburbs. We provide substance use treatment, both residential and outpatient, and we also provide mental health services. In addition, we also have medication-assisted treatment for individuals that have an opioid use disorder. And those services are here in the Chicagoland area.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And the organization has been around for 45 years. I've been around for 14 years.
Wow, 14 years.
Yeah, I started off as a counselor, and as opportunities present themselves, I moved up. So
as a counselor, what did you do?
So I started out in DuPage County, and a lot of what we see is what we're seeing now. Dealing with individuals that are struggling with heroin use. What the face of a heroin user out in DuPage County looks a little bit different to here in the city, but the issues are the same. So I started off as a counselor working with individuals that are struggling with a substance use disorder, whether it's opioids or cocaine or alcohol. And then I started moving towards the city as the opportunities presented itself, and now I'm the VP of Operations, so I oversee all of our direct services.
That's wonderful. Wow.
Yeah.
Really impressive.
Absolutely.
And then to my right, my co-host, John. So John is actually from Haas, so these are no strangers to each other here. They work together every day. Happy to have them both.
Yeah, happy again to be here.
Thanks, John. What's going on?
So Jesse, we, here on KNTV, we've been talking a lot about the opioid crisis. Can you just tell our audience a little bit more about like how our services at Haas are offered to users and families of users, and how our audience can learn a little bit more about our program services?
Yeah, so we offer, it's a three-pronged thing. We offer the prevention, the treatment, and also the case management resources. In other words, connecting individuals that are already may not be ready for treatment, but at least we hook them up with resources out there. Whether it's syringe exchange programs, whether it's condoms or harm reduction strategies, we're able to connect them. And that's what John and Maggie do. They're harm reduction coordinators. So they help individuals that may not be ready for treatment, but also provide them education. So when the time is right, they'll seek the treatment out, whether it's with us or with anybody else.
Sure. Okay.
The prevention portion, that's also key for us. So we do programs like this. We work in the schools. And the goal for there is just to disseminate information and hopefully deter some individuals from progressing and not going into that route that many individuals take. And then we have the treatment services. And that's for, we primarily see individuals, but we also have components, a family component that's crucial for the treatment of any substance use disorder. We have family education, and we also offer family treatment for individuals that have family members struggling with this, or they themselves are having issues with it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the services in relations to families. I know that this is a very family-oriented show, and something that we really want to convey is the importance of making sure that people are seeking the right treatment, receiving what they need, but the family isn't stuck with the trauma as well. So talk to me a little bit about family services and why that piece of it is so important to this process.
It's important because when you're working with an individual, they may progress, they'll grow, they'll develop, they start showing progress. However, the family continue to stay where they were left off.
Sure.
So a lot of times when the client, we call them participants, when a participant returns home, let's say from a residential treatment program, the family, if they don't receive the proper help or support, they'll still be at the very same place where the client left. In other words, the system will accommodate the addiction to come back. So in order for that to change, the family has to receive the proper education and treatment to address some of those trauma issues that they've experienced when that person was in their active use.
Wow, very interesting. So in talking about that and family, let's talk about community and some struggles that users are having to get treatment. What factors, from your point of view, do you think make it difficult for people to seek and receive treatment? especially opioid addiction?
So there's a couple of factors. One is the stigma. That's still huge in the community.
Let's talk about
Yeah.
that.
So there's still the stigma that exists in the African American community and the Latino community, where there is still this resistance to air out your dirty laundry or to talk to a professional because somebody feels that they may get judged as being crazy or not being strong. There's still the idea that somebody could white knuckle it, just do it on pure willpower. So you have the stigma. Lack of resources is also a barrier.
Okay.
Lack of funding continues to be an issue. Individuals may be underinsured or uninsured. That continues to be. And then we have individuals that have insurance, but they have a high copay or high deductible. That could be a barrier as well. And there's also a lack of services that are culturally competent to be able to deal with members of our community.
Let's definitely talk about that.
Yeah,
Please explain.
So, in order to be effective with any one of our participants, you have to be able to know the community they come from, to be able to connect with them, understand, speak the similar language, and understand where their issues, the things they face day to day.
Okay.
To be able to walk a mile in their shoes, so to speak, to say, I understand that, to know the community that they come from. Then we could be a little bit more help to be able to connect at that level. And then that's where the trust develops. That's the most important thing in any relationship, is that therapeutic relationship that develops between us and the participant. And a lot of it comes from them recognizing that you understand them and you're not judging them. And they could tell after 5 or 10 minutes by hearing you, language betrays us. After you talk a little bit, they know what you know, who you know, and how you're coming about. And so we've done a good job of making sure that we keep those roots in the community and that we hire people from those communities that we help.
Okay.
key.
So our audience is from out west, so we
Absolutely.
speak their language, and we are proud
Absolutely.
to convey the message, especially one as important as this, because one of the main things we want to do is create a message that people who need it the most understand.
Sure.
I think sometimes people are, steered away because of the scholarly language
Absolutely.
and the health jargon and the medical jargon. So that is the purpose of this show. So in areas like the west side of Chicago, Austin, West Garfield
Right.
Park, what do you know to be lacking in terms of treatment services?
Well, there definitely is quality. The quality of services have to be there. And one of the good things that we're seeing more and more agencies understand this, and so you're seeing more of this resource start showing up on those areas that you mentioned. But there's still a need for those, especially when we're talking about integrated services, where somebody comes in with a substance use issue, let's say, an addiction to heroin, they're going to need other issues besides the counseling.
Like what?
Housing, transportation, health, utility help, mental health counseling.
So the goal isn't just to rescue you off of this drug.
No, it's
Let's talk about the goals, because I want to make sure our audience understands that we understand that it's bigger than just saving you from the opioid.
right. There's a big picture approach, a holistic approach that has to be addressed. That this is not just a person with an addiction. There's other things that this person is going to come to you. Many of these individuals haven't seen a doctor or dentist in a long time, so they're going to come to you with several issues. And there's a couple of things that as an organization has to do responsibly, is which become good at identifying what are these other needs, and making sure that they get connected to those needs. Not just giving them information. Sometimes it's taking them in your vehicle and taking them to their appointment to
Right.
make sure that they get the resources.
Are your resources that intimate in
We're-
terms of literally dropping people to and from recovery?
So we're taking the community, the mental health community, substance use community is getting better, taking steps in there.
Wow.
One of the issues is, again, funding for some of those services. However, for example, at our agency, we've employed case managers at our locations. We have the harm reduction coordinators that are here today, and they're helping with that process of taking those extra steps of making sure that our clients get the resources they need. Not just telling them they need it, but showing them where they're at and doing that warm handoff where we connect them with somebody else that could do something that we can't.
Looking at the social determinants of health, the
Correct.
things that affect their life outside of just maybe their substance use.
Yeah, social determinants.
Yeah.
Correct.
All right.
And those and sometimes, there's those resources are lacking as well, and we have to, and that's why knowing the community really helps out, because you know what's there and what's not, what are the gaps,
Yeah.
and where to stick those resources. You become resourceful.
So are you from Austin and you want to learn more about these, but you don't know where to turn? Call into our show to talk to our people here from Haas, 312-738-1060. We'd love to hear from you. Understand that unless you raise your voice about what your community needs, you may not never receive the treatment in the areas that you need the most. So Jesse, thank you.
No
for
problem.
telling us
Thanks for
that.
having us here.
Absolutely.
Jesse, can you talk a little bit more about, when we're out doing outreach, we struggle with getting people access to treatment, or they maybe not understand treatment very well. Can you talk a little bit about, maybe in your own words, some tips with somebody who's seeking treatment, or what do you know to be most effective?
So it has to be individualized. So what works for one may not work for another. But what we do know that universally is important is seeking out help. Being able to share your story and your struggles, whether with family or a friend, or going into an agency like ours and saying, this is where I'm at, and I just want to talk about it. There's no commitment, just seeking out information. That's one of the things that definitely be helpful. Also become educated on the type of treatments. You mentioned it's different. When we're talking about addiction to heroin or opiates, there's a variety of treatments. Right now, the gold standard is medication-assisted treatment, whether we're talking about methadone maintenance or Suboxone. Those medications have proven to be very successful with individuals that are struggling with an addiction to opioids.
Okay.
And then you have your traditional outpatient residential treatment and outpatient treatment. Those are also effective, especially in combination with behavioral and medicational therapies.
Okay.
So those two things are out there, and it's just making sure that we provide that education to the participants or the clients to, kind of reduce that stigma.
Yeah.
Because they may see it how it's shown on TV or the media, and a lot of times it's not like that. It's not as painful.
Are these easy to access, or?
So certain areas there is, and some of them are. For example, there is a concerted effort in Illinois to increase, especially in the Chicagoland area, to increase medication-assisted treatment because of the effectiveness thus far. But then there's still a stigma with those. When you talk about methadone maintenance, sometimes you get this response from individuals where they're not sure how to take that. I'm not sure if I want to get on methadone. I'm not this idea that I'm leaving one drug for another.
Right.
Those are the kind of things that through education we kind of chip away some of those myths.
Yeah.
And that's huge. Sometimes that becomes absolutely.
That is very huge. So what about Narcan? Because we've had a show about Narcan, and I know that our audience isn't a stranger to that word and that drug. Let's talk a little bit about Narcan and how Haas administers. Do you?
So we have it on every site to make sure that if somebody overdoses, that we have trained clinicians or trained staff to be able to.
Big deal.
Absolutely, we got to minimize those overdose fatalities, and that's when Maggie and John come in. They do a lot of education out there and hooking these individuals up with for families and relatives of individuals that are using heroin to have this available to them.
Are people welcoming Narcan?
Majority, I would say yes.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, before we didn't know how people would take it in communities, but people are open to having it because once they see it, that you may not be solving the issue, but you're saving a life.
Sure.
You can't work with them if they're passed away, if they're dead. At least
Yeah.
you live another day to try it again. So.
And I think to what Jesse was saying earlier about understanding, a lot of people just don't understand it, and I would say specifically agencies don't understand the importance of having Narcan or naloxone at their site. But we come in, Maggie and I come in and do those trainings, and they're like, oh yeah, this is a no-brainer.
Right.
We should have been doing this 10 years ago or whatever. So
People are welcoming the idea of having Narcan kids, training their staff, training themselves to
Right.
make sure that if someone on the job may have an overdose that can equal a fatality.
Yeah.
That you could at least save their life.
Yeah.
I drive around with it. I have it in my car.
My
So
goodness, Jesse.
anywhere I go, and I'm sure you guys have it in your vehicle as well. And so whether it's one of our participants coming there for something else, they go to the bathroom, something happens, we at least could save their life.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
That's powerful.
Piece of the puzzle. Yeah.
Any other recovery tips?
support. Family support.
Support.
Is going to be key. The support for the individual is going to be key. And the good thing is that there are supports that exist already, whether it's AA or NA or CA, and that may not work for everybody, but there is a lot of support also in the community that you come from. It may be the store owner down the street or the agency that you ignored, maybe didn't know was existed. But support's going to be important. Don't take this on your own. There's no reason for that.
Don't take this on your own. I wanted to
Absolutely not.
repeat that. I think that a lot of people think that they can.
No, nor should they. There's so many people willing to help.
Yeah.
Pass that out. Pass
You
it
are
around
not
to everybody.
alone.
You're not alone. So let people help you. At the very least, support you. Don't take this on alone. It's too much. And so there's support's going to be key.
So we're speaking a lot to the users who are struggling with the drug. Let's speak a little bit to their family. Let's talk a little bit about them. They too are not alone.
So it is. Matter of fact, this weekend I got a call from a son whose father was in the hospital. This was for
Whoa.
alcohol related. Yeah. He had a seizure. Was drinking every day, so he's very sick. So I called him back on Saturday, and all he wanted was some information because he didn't know what was happening. He just knew his dad had a seizure. He's at the hospital. He knows his dad drank every day. He was vomiting blood. So this family was completely lost. So what they did is they called a number that they got. They were able to get. I called him back. And I made their day by just providing them some basic information, some tips on what kind of questions they ask the hospital, making sure that that individual gets connected to a detox or other supports when they leave there.
Wow.
Help them explain the results, how is their liver functioning, kidney functioning, things like that. So the family could do a lot on their own to get information, to get the resources to at least be better equipped to tackle on these issues that they're bringing, especially if the person lives with them.
Oh, yeah.
It could be a tremendous stress on the family
I'm
system.
sure.
And years after a while, the family becomes overwhelmed
Wow.
or discouraged.
Oh, yeah.
And so a lot of times it's just reaching out, calling, and getting some, and maybe it's just a talk, but reaching out and getting some help.
John, as you're out there training, you and Maggie, do you find that people are welcome to this type of help, family support?
Yeah, I think that just what Jesse was saying too. I mean, a lot of families want to support, but they just don't know how to.
Yeah.
So I think it's often an overlooked part of the puzzle.
Right.
And we, giving that support to the family, I think, is really crucial because they are often confused or upset, and they don't know how to support the person who might be going
Guilt.
through treatment. They might be
lot of
feeling
guilt.
guilty.
I'm
Incorporating
sure that's a
them.
lot in children.
Sure,
absolutely.
you feel
Children
guilt.
probably feel
Even with the adults and children, you feel
Let's
guilty.
talk about guilt.
Well, the family feels guilt for helping the individual. They feel, am I enabling this individual? And then they feel guilty when they're not helping.
So the road to recovery is some steps.
Oh, it's just
Yeah,
some steps.
absolutely.
There's some steps, and it could be difficult. It takes hard work, but it's doable. That's the good thing, and that's the message that this is not something that's impossible. It's
What
doable.
about someone that detours and comes back and detours and comes back?
As long as they
Let's
keep
talk about
coming back, right?
I love that. As long as you keep coming back.
Yeah, there's and that's
Yeah.
there's a fear with that too. That
Really?
somebody's sure that with individuals that they've been clean for a year or 2 years, and all of a sudden they have a slip or something happens and they start drinking or smoking or whatever the case may be. A lot of times they feel guilty and
Yeah.
don't come back or just ignore it. And they're afraid that they're going to get judged.
Don't get lost in the
No,
shuffle
don't get
that
lost.
way.
Absolutely not.
Allow yourself to be human and go back to your treatment and to your
Absolutely.
road to recovery.
Get
Don't
back on the
allow
horse,
yourself, don't allow yourself to be beat up for being human. That's a heck of
Yeah.
a point.
It is. And a lot of families struggle. A lot of the phone calls that I get are with family asking how should they deal with their family member that's struggling with addiction. Should
Okay,
I
let's
give
be
them money?
specific. Families as in mothers a lot? Tell me,
Well, it could be-
if you can,
well-
a vague testimony.
Sure. Well, first of all, family out here, it could be a lot different than what people expect. It's not always mother, father, brother,
Oh,
and sister.
sure.
It could be grandparents, it could be grandma, brothers, sisters, cousins. And you hear the phone call, a lot of the things I get is, should I give my son, for example, should I give my son some money? He needs money to go look for a job. Is it okay for giving him money? Should I give him rides? Should I kick him out of the house because he keeps
Yeah,
using
that's a big one.
Those hard questions that they're not sure how to deal with it. That's where we come in, because there's not a black and white answer for all those situations. It will really depend on that specific situation, on whether that's what needs to be done.
Yeah.
What kind of boundaries. But one thing that needs to happen with any family dealing with a family member dealing with substance use issues is there has to be some clear boundaries that exist between them and the individual struggling.
Let's talk about those boundaries. What do you mean?
Basically, how we're the rules of engagement in this house, whether it's curfew, whether it's who is allowed in the house, where do you draw the line? At what point were you asked that individual to leave?
So are you saying that it literally takes the entire family and the entire support system around you to get to a better place, to actually stay consistent with recovery?
To have a conversation about these things. The difficult conversations about how we're going to continue dealing with this if change occurs or if change does not occur. How we're going to deal with it. And the family does have to ask themselves, am I psychologically, emotionally, and financially ready to follow up with those things?
Wow.
Because a lot of family will throw out these threats or these promises. If you do this again, I'm going to kick you out. And they don't do it. That creates even more issues. So we have to ask ourselves, what are we ready to do? How are we ready to respond to this individual? And whatever we say we're going to do, we have to commit to it. It's healthy, but there has to be a communication.
Holding everyone accountable.
And if the decision is to continue having this person in our house, it's fine, as long as there's a communication. And there has to be awareness from both people involved.
What advice do you have for anyone that's currently addicted to opioids and need help, and they haven't found what they needed because their neighborhood hasn't provided it, or they haven't found what they needed because they're afraid and they don't know how to find Haas?
Call us right now. First things, give us a call right now.
Give us a call
Give
right
us a
now,
call.
312-738-1060. We have 4 more minutes until we are done
Boy,
with our
time
show.
flies.
Yeah.
Yes.
flies.
So going back to what I said earlier, if the person finds themselves alone, struggling with this, get some help, recruit some individuals, do an anonymous call to an agency or somebody that you think may help you with this.
An anonymous call. Let's talk about that. Someone may be interested in doing it.
For example, you could call the agency and say, hi, the reason I'm calling is because I myself, I'm struggling with, I've been using heroin for the last 2 years, and I just don't know what to do. Somebody will get on the other line and start working with you, and at least meet you where you're at that point. They're not going to force you to go into anything. They're not going to have you commit to anything. Just give you some answers.
Wow.
And through there, the hope is that the individual starts working it out in their head and slowly gets to a point where they're committed to taking some steps.
Absolutely.
Some steps.
Yeah.
And as a follow-up, real quickly, and this might be too clinical, but like for the average person who wants to seek treatment, let's say at Haas or a different agency, what's the typical process? Because I know that can be pretty overwhelming.
Yeah.
Sure. Typical process, it will be a phone call or a walk-in. And that'll be to schedule an intake.
walk-in.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you could walk in, like for example, we have walk-ins and we have scheduled appointments. And then you come in, you're going to have to do an intake. The intake is to identify the nature and extent of this person's pattern of use, their history. The whole goal of that intake assessment is to determine what would be the appropriate intervention to deal with this person's issue, whatever the issue may be, whether it's mental health or substance use related or co-occurring. At that point, the person will get a recommendation. And for example, again, at our agency, they will be able to start treatment soon after that intake assessment.
Okay.
And when I say soon, within a day or two.
Sure.
Yeah. Now, there's different steps taken for residential or for MAT because of the guidelines placed by the state. They need a physical, either from their own doctor
Oh,
or,
interesting.
yeah, you're going to need a physical. Some places require a photo ID, and those become the barriers that we're talking about. When somebody's told you need a physical, you need ID, you need documentation, before you know it, they start becoming overwhelmed with all these things. I need to get into treatment. The reality is that that's the way it is here with the licensing bodies and the procedures here in the state of Illinois, is that there's certain requirements for different levels of care. But for outpatient, those things are less restrictive, so we can get individuals in fairly quickly.
Really good.
And the good thing is there's funding available. There's funding
Really
available.
good. That's
So-
always good news. It's money to
Absolutely.
solve the problem.
There's resources available, there's funding available, so the financial barriers have been eliminated for the most part.
Really good.
Yeah.
That's good to hear. So that makes it more affordable.
Absolutely.
More
Absolutely.
accessible.
More accessible.
So if we were looking to find Haas, get to your offices, get to your website, how can we do that?
So we have this flyer here. It has our basic information website. Our website's the best place to go. It has all our programs in the Chicagoland area. It includes Humboldt Park, south side of Chicago, and then we also have a location in Austin at
Really
West
nice.
Suburban Hospital. So we have locations spread
Austin,
out.
out west. What
Out
do you
west.
know?
Austin, Chicago Avenue, right there on Erie. Austin and Erie, actually.
What's
by
the address to that one again?
It's 3 Erie Court.
All right, Austin, out west. There are
Absolutely.
services, healthcare alternative systems. Jesse, we thank you so much for
Thank you
being
for having
here.
me.
I think that was an excellent amount of information, and I
Hope so.
hope that it saves a life. Thank you so much again for joining us as usual Mondays at 5 on the Word Out West. This was so much information.
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Please follow up. Follow them again. Give us your website again.
It's the website is www.hos
Cares.
hoscares.org.
HosCares.org, www.HosCares.org.
Right here, www.hoscares.org.
Sounds good. Catch you again next Monday on The Word Out West.
Thank you.